Orange and Blue today back in action with another what if. And this one is exciting because Jarrett Stidham was not good as the Broncos starter last year, May. So our what if is, well, what if he was good in week 17 and week 18?
If he was good, are we saying the Broncos beat the Raiders in week 18 and finish 9-8?
Yes.
So they're picking even lower in the draft?
Yep. Because they beat the Raiders are now taking a quarterback. The Raiders are taking Bo Nix. Right?
Yep.
So Bo Nix is done. If Jarrett Stidham was better.
Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Spencer Rattler. How is that striking?
I'd be ranking him as the 32nd quarterback room in the league. Like, okay, but let's fast forward that with Stidham though. Like, what if he was exceptional? What if he was running the Sean Payton offense? Would we be saying like Sean Payton did it again? Sean Payton did it again. Guy sat all year waiting for his time. He gets in and he's excellent.
Yeah. You're feeling great. Maybe not feeling great. Because I probably would have used the old Vic Fangio term false positive a lot.
Okay.
Because that would have been my fear. We saw Drew Locke a false positive, right? Late in the 2019 season. That was a 5-game sample size.
4-1 is the starter.
Yeah. This is where I would have been saying, man, I would have been like, I'm still wanting a round one quarterback. I'm still wanting a Bo Nix, wanting to move up to get him if that's what you have to do. Man. See, if he'd looked good, I would have said, okay, you were facing an incredibly injured Chargers team and a Raiders defense that was just okay, not great. I'd be feeling pretty down about the Broncos' chances long-term right now, to be honest with you. Because I think I would have been poking holes in how Stidham looked in those 2 games.
Would your faith have been shaken in Sean Payton then?
A little bit. I would have said I don't know necessarily think I like this being the only possibility, and I'm not sure the other possibilities that you've got there because we're assuming Zach Wilson, we're assuming Spencer Rattler. I wouldn't be sold, right? I'd be like, I think you got 3 chances here, and I'm not sure any arrow hits the target.
Right.
We would be having an awful lot of conversations about the 2025 draft class at quarterback. We dove into that on the previous show.
Yes.
See how it all kind of comes together a little bit? Oh, man. Sean Payton still has some belief in Jarrett Stidham. There's no doubt.
Sure.
What I don't know that Stidham could have shown anything in those 2 games that would have fully gotten me on board because I would have been thinking, okay, this is the equivalent of a September call-up in baseball. And you see September call-ups all the time do great. Not so much in the last couple of years because the rosters weren't expanded, but back in the 40-man September roster days, I mean, you're talking about maybe 20-30% of your plate appearances coming against guys who are effectively AAA pitchers. So September call-ups deceive, and I think Jarrett Stidham against a wounded Chargers team and a Raiders team playing down the stretch, I think that would have had the capability to deceive as well.
Yeah. So be careful of that false positive. But Mace, you and I would have questions. How would the locker room feel? We'll get to more in Sean Payton's head, but we know those teammates love him. So if he's out there slinging it, let's just say crazy talk, right? Let's say in 2 games he has 7 touchdowns, right? And
how many picks?
For 0 picks. And he passes for, let's say, 700 yards. 7 and 7, right? Sounds good. 7 touchdowns, no picks, 700 yards. Oh my God, why didn't the Broncos start him sooner? That's probably where more of the conversation would be, right? Which maybe that's a what if within a what if, but it's like if he was that excellent, we would have questions, but teammates would just be like, I knew City was the guy. I'm so excited about City being in there.
Are we
Teammates love him.
Are we talking about 24 of 35?
Yeah.
All right, so let's throw that in there. 24 of 35 for 35 for each game. That's 48 of 70 for 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, no picks. That's a passer rating over 2 games of 134.2.
Woo! That's pretty hot, pretty spicy. Teammates are going to love it. So we may see it as a false positive because of the players, but those players know you got to line up. Those are NFL players too. You got to line up and play them.
Yeah. They'd be excited.
Mm-hmm.
I would be skeptical.
What an interesting twist.
Would Broncos country be excited? See, that's another thing. Would Broncos country be on board with Jarrett Stidham? Would it be, okay, this is the way the offense was supposed to look? Or would it be, okay, this was an end of the season start for somebody who had not proven he could even get a starting assignment other than a couple of games at the end of back-to-back seasons?
Right.
So would people be buying him? Would this be enough to stoke optimism in Broncos country? Because I imagine in this environment, you go 9-8 instead of 8-9. You pick a little bit lower. I think we still would have spent. I think the offseason would still been spent talking about quarterbacks. I think the Broncos probably still would have gone on their quarterback search, and it might have ended up with Leatu Latu as your first round pick.
Yes. Yep. Because your quarterback run happened and you were just on the outside looking in. But you asked, would fans love it? Mace, I'll say this, and let's really chop this up. And we're going to talk about Drew Lock on tomorrow's show. But in that 4-1 start for Lock, let's just be bare bones honest. Outside the Texans game, he didn't look good.
Yeah.
They were 4-1. I appreciated that. And the Kansas City game notwithstanding, right? That was in the snow. It's Kansas City. He's going to get waxed. Like, he got waxed. But outside of the Houston game, which was his first game, because remember the first throw to Noah Fant, that was a dangerous throw.
Yep.
But he made it, and Fant turned it into a big play. Texans game, he looked outstanding.
Yeah.
The rest of the games were pretty shaky, but fans were on board. 2 is not 5. But I think this fan base is so desperate for great quarterback play. If Stidham was great, they'd be excited.
They'd be buying Stidham jerseys, you think?
Number 4 on the field, number 1 in your hearts. He wouldn't change his number, right? Because he's changed his number.
Ooh. Zach Wilson would still be here, right? You'd still have traded for him?
Yes. I believe so.
We would have been like, well, they're definitely not drafting a quarterback now. We even had some of that skepticism, like, Zach Wilson is fine if you're still drafting a quarterback in round 1. And they did. So Zach Wilson, great. Take another shot. Throw another arrow at the board. Why not?
It's fine.
Great. Let's see. I'm fully on board with Zach Wilson as long as that's not your young quarterback prospect. As long as you're not saying we're good. I didn't want them to do the Teddy Bridgewater thing where you trade for Teddy. I'm like, okay, we're good. Or you sign Case Keenum. Oh, we're good. No. Oh, boy. I'm having trouble getting past my skepticism here. Like, this is where...
There's nothing Jarrett Stidham could have done to make you excited. Like, literally nothing. 7 touchdowns, no picks, 700 yards.
Intrigued, yes, but not to where I'm saying that's my plan. Now, I would have preferred they say, okay, Jarrett Stidham's good. We're still drafting a quarterback round 1, Bo Nix. But maybe what you're talking about is being able to take your time with Bo Nix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it'd be like, okay, you really don't have to rush him because you ride the Stidham wave for as long as you can. And if that Stidham wave ends up being something that lasts for years, you trade Bo Nix, you trade the surplus, you're happy with that, right? Or maybe Jarrett Stidham is your Drew Brees and Bo Nix is your Phillip Rivers and you're the Chargers.
Right.
Boy, you're the Chargers. I'm sure that probably gave Bronco fans hives.
Right. Exactly. What about, and I don't think this would happen, but we're doing what if we're in a multiverse, Mace. They couldn't have moved Jarrett Stidham, right? If he's excellent, someone tosses you a pick because they've done their quarterback research. You just said it, right? They're going to do their quarterback research, and they've decided, okay, we're picking at 15. They're not at 12. They're at 15 or whatever, 13, whatever the number is, and they go, we have to get Jane Daniels or whoever. Just name a quarterback. Is there a possibility they could have dealt Jarrett Stidham?
Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, he'd washed out with 2 teams, right?
So let's go to who's aligned with Sean Payton. I'm going to throw out a name for you, and this is going to make you. I think this is going to make you excited, more excited than Jarrett Stidham as a starter. What if Jarrett Stidham's excellent, and he's showing, wow, Sean Payton fixed him or whatever, and Dan Campbell says, we'll give you Hendon Hooker. We need a more solid. We need an established guy. We're going to make a Super Bowl run behind Jared Goff. We need Jarrett Stidham. Here's Hendon Hooker. Now you're taking Latu, and Hendon Hooker's competing with Zach Wilson for your starting job.
I know this is mystery box thing, but sold.
I knew that'd get a smile on your face.
Well, you knew I liked Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker's got first-round talent.
Yes.
But
he just got hurt the wrong time.
Yeah. So is this the conversation then? Like, hey, Jarrett Stidham something. He's not, what he is now. And you're Dan Campbell because you have that association with Sean Payton. You'd be like, Sean, you did great work. Man, I know you because Sean would always want more. You know what I mean? If Jarrett Stidham was 7 touchdowns and blah, 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 Sean would still want more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More's Hendon Hooker.
More ability, more pocket presence. I guess because here's the thing. Are we saying that Jarrett Stidham has the same attributes? It's just his numbers were dazzling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Then is Jarrett Stidham still getting sacked a bunch of times in the Raider game, but he's putting up good pass numbers?
Right.
Okay. Because that's part of my skepticism there is that Jarrett Stidham was no better at avoiding sacks than Russell Wilson. Now, Stidham had the game without Mike McGlinchey at right tackle, but there was a different type of pocket skittishness, but still it was obvious. And maybe Sean Payton would have wanted to see something, would have wanted something different to say, okay, I like this, but it's not all I need it to be. I'm not sure he'd do the Hendon Hooker thing, but I'd be like, yeah, you did that. That was playing dirty on your part, by the way, because you knew how I felt about Hendon Hooker. You knew that.
It almost turns into a would you rather. Like there has to be some pain here.
Yeah.
Because, if Jarrett Stidham was excellent, what if you're just going on with Jarrett Stidham? Yeah, but what if it wasn't enough?
Yeah.
Because to sum up your thoughts, he really couldn't have done anything to capture the minds and hearts of his staff or the fan base, regardless.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have had a lot of trouble building my future around a performance in 2 end-of-season games against teams missing the playoffs.
So would Sean Payton.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why he'd always want more.
Yeah.
That's why he'd be thinking Hendon Hooker.
When do you think Sean Payton reaches a point where he doesn't want more? When he has someone who's the equivalent of Drew Brees?
Isn't that what you're always doing? Right? In life?
Yeah.
And in football? And when you have that relationship, you're just like, I want that again. And until it's that, I'm going to keep looking.
Yeah.
Maybe that's unfair, but I think that's human behavior, not nature. I think that's human behavior.
I mean, the team had a 5-game winning streak with Russell Wilson, and Sean Payton was probably already looking to what it might look like with Jarrett Stidham to give him a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Jarrett Stidham had played the back half of the season and if he played 9 games at a high level rather than 2, is the discussion different? Yes,
for sure. Mm-hmm.
But it's a 2 game. That's the question we're offering here. He comes in the lineup at the same time. If the Broncos are 1-7 and Stidham comes in for the Buffalo game, if he's spectacular in the back half of the season, yeah, okay, fine. You're going to build around him. I don't think he would have been. I don't think you think he would have been. I think what we saw was indicative of how he ends up looking. Maybe he gets a little bit better if he gets a second year, but not build your franchise around this guy level.
Yes. And let's put it this way. How would the momentum look carrying into this season? There's a chance as we sit here in the summer that Jarrett Stidham is the week 1 starter.
Yeah.
With Bo Nix, eventually all roads lead to Bo Nix. We need to get the t-shirts printed. But like, what if Stidham had the 2 games, 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, and then week 1, he's the man? How would that look? Momentum-wise, confidence-wise for him?
It would look good for Jarrett Stidham. It would look good internally. How would it look externally? How much
Not
enthusiasm would you have about this team
I don't
community?
think so. I don't think it'd look good.
Yeah. And I also think the question, we would be having the discussion over and over. You had 2 games of film on Jarrett Stidham against teams who were playing out the string. What does it look like next year? What do you expect? Do teams adjust? Probably. Do they attack him in different ways in the pocket? Probably. And me being, let's face it, a little bit of a steady skeptic in this discussion, I think I would have been expecting the worst. And I would have been called a hater, which I've been called before.
That's fine. Everyone's fine. How would the comparisons with Russell Wilson go? Because right now, people will just assume Bo Nix will be better than Russ eventually or now or whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was you moved on from Wilson and Stidham's all you got.
Oh, gosh, this team.
All we hear is like, oh, why'd they get rid of Russell Wilson?
Everybody would be picking this team to finish last.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep. I think the Wilson, the Rusties, I think is what Mike Evans calls them, would be even louder than they are right now. They're not that loud right now, but I think if that was the case, they'd be like, you got rid of Russell Wilson and all you've got is Jarrett Stidham.
And you didn't draft a quarterback in round 1. Maybe you got Spencer Rattler in round 3. Or sure. maybe you didn't get him. Maybe you went in another direction and said Michael Pratt in round 6. Oh my. It would have been you would have had to trust Sean Payton, right? That's basically the whole thing. Trusting Sean Payton. He's got something figured out. I would have some skepticism. I'd be like, you know what? I would be thinking that this is like when Gary Kubiak started Trevor Siemian, not Russell Wilson. When Kubiak started Trevor Siemian, it felt like he was trying to will something into existence, which is to will this 7th round pick to be the guy. And a 7th round pick in whom I think Gary Kubiak saw a lot of elements of himself.
He is me.
Yeah. I didn't get that chance, but by gum, we're going to give Trev the chance here and see. And unfortunately, it proved to be a dead end. So I'm a trust but verify guy. And I haven't seen enough yet on Jarrett Stidham. Even if he'd, in this hypothetical universe, put up a 134.2 rating in the final 2 games, I haven't seen enough to verify just yet.
What would Sean Payton's answer have been at the coach's breakfast when I asked him, like, when does a guy go from potential to we know who he is? How would he have answered that question differently if Stidham had been exceptional?
Ooh, good question.
Because remember, he said, I don't think we're there yet.
I think he would have said the same thing.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he would have reined it in a little bit. I think he understood the sample size. But they would have been in a different draft position, which I think would have meant a different path.
That's pain. Because if you're saying what I think you're saying, Sean Payton would still want Bo Nix.
But he might not get Bo Nix.
So would it even matter?
You might see him. He might be a Raider. But I mean, we say Latu. Maybe let's tickle Broncos country's bone a little bit here.
Okay, I know where you're going.
What if it's Brock Bowers?
Right. Hey, we got Jarrett Stidham, another weapon, right?
And I would have thought this is like giving Drew Locke another weapon in 2020 off of the 5 starts that were a false positive. I wouldn't be very popular among the optimists in Broncos country.
Right. But Brock Bowers would be pretty exciting. Reports out of Raiders OTAs are like they're moving around the formation. It's like, yeah, because he's a big slot. But
of course, he's not an inline tight end.
No, he's not. But what I was just going to say before he brought up Brock Bowers, which definitely has to be part of the conversation, Mace, is this. Jarrett Stidham could have balled out and it wouldn't have mattered. Because Sean Payton would be throwing the cold water on it, much like you would be throwing the cold water on it.
But you don't think they end up with Bo Nix, or do you think they find a way to trade up and get Bo Nix?
Well, then they'd have to trade up.
Yeah.
And then that conversation becomes, Jarrett Stidham was awesome in those 2 games, and you had to trade another first rounder to get up and get this Bo Nix guy who's the 6th quarterback. Like, imagine that headache. They stayed put and got Bo Nix, who's really good. They'd have to move up, and people have been like, what are they doing? They had Jarrett Stidham.
There were people complaining about standing pat and getting Bo Nix. Oh, why didn't you trade down?
Right.
You couldn't trade down. You weren't getting him if you trade down for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
People.
Sometimes we have to shout it from the rooftops, Mace. But this is, I don't know if this what if has an answer.
Oh.
Does it?
Because we're still figuring it out.
Yeah. What if Jarrett Stidham balled out? You're still complicated. Relationship status, complicated.
It's hard when there's not a firm ending. See, like, narrative structure is off on this because this is going to be an ambiguous ending.
Mm-hmm. Which
is why I think we're going to be like, all right, share in the comments. How do you think this would have turned out?
Right.
Because I don't have an answer to this except to say, I don't think they would have traded up, and that's where the whole Payton dynamic comes into play. I think George would have been skeptical, and I think they would have stood pat. And shoot, maybe you don't have the ability to make a deal. Like, okay, because here's what it would have happened. The Raiders would have picked higher because they would have had another loss, and the Broncos would have had another win.
Right.
So you may not have had the window to trade up and get Bo Nix at all.
Mm-hmm. Because the Raiders were not trading that. They weren't moving.
Yep. Right now, if the draft exists as it did, you would have had the number 11 pick. You could have moved into. Nope, doesn't happen. You might try. You might huff and puff, but you're not able to blow the house down, so to speak. And you're watching as the 6th quarterback goes off the board, who you really liked. And then what do?
Hope Zach Wilson turns out.
Hope Spencer Rattler is more than Cecil Lammey believes that he can be.
Yeah, that would not be good because you'd be down on Stidham and I'd be down on Spencer. So you would probably be promoting Spencer as like the future, just an assumption. And I would be saying like, I'd probably be backing Stidham. Be like, oh, go with the veteran.
I would probably be saying like, okay, you got the veteran there and you throw him out there for as long as you can. But when the bloom comes off the rose, you put Rattler in because you don't want to make the Drew Locke mistake again and bypass on quarterbacks or trading up for a quarterback in the following draft because you have this day 2 quarterback. right? Who might be. I'd want to know whether he is or he isn't. And then you go into the 2025 draft class, and I guess I'm hoping that Carson Beck is the truth because, man, I'm not sold on a quarterback prospect who's only played for his dad since high school.
Right.
This is uncomfortable.
This is. I don't like the ambiguous ending, but we're here. So,
well, that's because you're in the creative field, you're in the narrative field, right? You know, you write you do a comic book, you've got a resolution to some degree. Now maybe it's leading to the next story, but you have wrapped up the story. It is self-contained. You don't have to read the others to grasp this and have a resolution from this. We're leaving it undone. We're leaving it for you, our viewers. And if you want to further help us out beyond commenting, it's real simple. You can like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
and hit that notification bell so that you
never miss a vid. That's right. We got to change up. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.